Today, we got even more news about Project 2025 from ProPublica. This time, they are reporting that not only does the Heritage Foundation have a plan to remake America and a resume database for volunteers, but they also have masterclass-style video tutorials on how these folks can outwit bureaucrats, hide information from the public, and implement their radical agenda without accountability.
I think you can expect that equity and all of the equity executive orders under Biden will be repealed early in the next administration. This is going to require a very detailed plan to execute the eradication of the dictates in the equity orders.
It's definitely giving those creepy videos from Lost. But what Kate Sullivan, Trump's former acting assistant attorney general, is talking about is how MAGA Republicans want to get rid of any federal policy that treats minority communities like the LGBTQ community with respect or equity. The root of this determination is these conservatives' belief that being anything other than straight is oppositional to, quote, families comprised of a married mother, father, and their children, which Heritage calls the foundation of a well-ordered nation and healthy society. Kevin Roberts, who runs Heritage, expands on what it means to root out equity, writing, quote, pornography manifested today in the omnipresent propagation of transgender ideology and sexualization of children has no claim to First Amendment protection. And those who discuss it are child predators and misogynistic exploiters of women, unquote. Project 2025's specific plans for the LGBT community are deeply rooted in Christian nationalism, and they're grotesquely cruel and bigoted. Simply put, they don't respect this community. They don't want to see you. They don't want to hear about you. And they certainly do not believe you deserve any special protections. They plan to rescind any regulations prohibiting discrimination based on sexual orientation, gender identity, transgender status, and sex characteristics, including by rescinding moves by the Biden administration to extend Title IX protections. That's the civil rights law that prohibits educational institutions receiving federal funds from discriminating on the basis of sex or gender, to include LGBTQ students, too. They want to create a national version of Florida's Don't Say Gay policy. They want to criminalize educators who create safe environments for all kids. And finally, while they do not explicitly say that they want to reverse the Supreme Court ruling that made marriage equality a constitutional right, they do explain how Republicans can undermine it by eliminating any federal policies that promote LGBTQ equality or policies that exclusively assist single moms. Joining me now is Chase Strangio, co-director of the ACLU's LGBTQ and HIV project. Chase, great to see you. Tell me, I've given a few of the sort of highlights or lowlights. What about this section of Project 2025 keeps you up at night?
Well, thank you, Joy. And I would say that all of Project 2025 keeps me up at night, and it's very difficult to parse it out because it is a fundamental assault on everything we understand to be true about the structures of our government and our ability to advocate for ourselves as communities that have faced discrimination and marginalization. I will say I want to really pull out one of the first things that you put up on the screen, which is that Project 2025 is very fixated on trans people, really highlighting the outsized role that we have in the far right's imagination. But one of the things that is so chilling about this document is the way in which it talks about equating transness with pornography. And this really is the extreme manifestation of the groomer discourse and everything we've seen percolating in the far right media for a very long time, and then implementing that into policy by then saying that purveyors of pornography, which in essence includes just trans people existing, should be imprisoned. So if we think about what that means, it's setting the stage for a whole community of people, my community of people, to be targeted, surveilled, and imprisoned just for existing. And so I think we really have to sit with what that means, because that's at the core of what Project 2025 is saying.
Yeah, and they use this terminology, sexualizing children. And I see a lot of like the Marjorie Taylor Greens and using that. But what they mean by that is just saying there are gay people or saying there are trans people. That is what they mean when they say sexualizing children. And so they're using this sort of protecting children motif basically to say, we just don't want you to mention that lesbian, gay, bisexual, or trans people exist.
And they don't want us to be around children. And this really harkens back to the Anita Bryant Save Our Children campaign. This is the idea is LGBTQ people are inherently sexualizing by existing in proximity to children. But of course, we are parents, we are teachers, we are parts of all these communities. And so what does that mean when you have a vision of government that situates us as a threat to others and to children specifically? It authorizes the power of the government to start to criminalize us, to start to target us. And that's really what's at the core of this document.
Let me just put up, there's a map the ACLU put up that tracks 527 anti-LGBTQ bills just in the 2024 legislative sessions around the country. You can see Florida showing up there, a lot of southern states, but Missouri, Mississippi, Tennessee, et cetera. But some of the things that they're talking about doing in Project 2025, including expelling transgender troops from the military, expelling people living with HIV from the military, ending the Department of State's LGBTQ equality initiatives in Africa, where there are some really horrific laws against gay people, ending the anti-discrimination rules in the Affordable Care Act, essentially stripping LGBTQ people of any protection of law, period, and even the ability to serve their country.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a combination of the worst of what we've seen in the states, federalized, where those policies can be federalized, and then exclusively federal policies like reissuing the trans military ban and restricting the ability to have foreign aid to entities that even talk about LGBTQ people around the world. So it is a really chilling document for what it means for our communities. And it does things like suggest that parents who consent to medical treatment on behalf of their children are child abusers and threaten to authorize the removal of those children like we saw in Texas. Really the worst of everything that we've seen at the state level. But one thing I just want to be sure to say is that all of these assaults start with trans people, but they reach cis people.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. It never stays in one community. Discrimination travels. Chase Strangio, thank you very much. Much appreciated.